85 years ago, The Wizard of Oz struck theaters and spent its almost century as a beloved household watch. 20 years ago, the Broadway production Wicked swept the nation and had become one of the most talked about theater productions of my lifetime. Now in theaters, Wicked has been brought to the big screen and become critically acclaimed, and at the time of filming this has become the #1 film worldwide. And today, we look at why. Hello and welcome to Studio Cinema Saturday, the show where we watch films old and new, the ones you don't like and the ones you do. I'm your host, Garrett, and today, we talk Wicked. The main cast for this film stars Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, Ariana Grande as Glinda or Galinda, Jonathan Bailey as Prince Fiero, Ethan Slater as Bach, and Peter Dinklage as Dr. Dillamond. I'm gonna start off here with a little bit of a spoiler-free section. Getting into the theater, I really didn't have a lot of expectations, as I haven't seen the original theater production and I haven't read the book that it's based on. But once I got in there, I was amazed. I was really into it. I really loved what they did with it, from the choreography to the way it was shot to all of the practical sets and just everything they did to make that movie come together.
Right here, the dancer jumps on from ladder to ladder to ladder, and the camera then flips upside down. In one shot, we do not cut, and there's a whole group of dancers on the other side of the camera.
Oh, yes, the flip. There's no cut here.
Some minor technical things that I'll nitpick on. I think at some point, some of the audio mixing maybe isn't that easy to hear all of the time. I want to say when Ariana Grande hits some of the higher tones, it's a little hard to make out what she's saying, but the performance overall is really good, so it wasn't too much of a downside for me. Following this, obviously, the music in the film was spectacular. There were songs from it that I didn't know that I already knew, that have just been popped up on TikTok and whatnot, like Popular. One of the really solid tracks, mostly done by Ariana Grande, I thought was really good. Really enjoyed it. It's been stuck in my head since I went and watched the film. Over a third of this film's runtime is music, with over, I think, an hour of music in the film. I honestly really enjoyed all of it. And then you get into the big final production of Defying Gravity, which was amazing. The vocal performances of our leads are great. I loved Cynthia and Ariana. I thought they were just really great picks. I also loved that for the song before this, you got the original cast members to come in and they did a number with them, and that was super fun. Like, I just like to see little things like that. Last spoiler-free thing I will say is I do feel like at some points, some of the pacing is a little odd. I feel like the first hour and a half of that film flew by, and everything after that was kind of a slow burn. And obviously part of that is just with the pacing of some of the music and the big numbers, like things just naturally slow down. I do feel like we really flew through that first hour of just quick, and then we kind of got to sit and just go through the end. I didn't think it took away from my viewing experience. We've arrived at the spoiler warning. If you've reached this part in the video and you don't want to get spoiled, click off now. But if you don't, and you get mad about it,
just try. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
Now, I'm just gonna jump right in with the big thing about the film. I was a little disappointed that we really didn't get many conclusions out of this film. It really didn't feel like this film had an ending, and obviously that is because this is only the first half of an overall story. While I was disappointed that I didn't get to see it, mostly it was because I was really interested in what was going on and I just wanted to see how it played out. And for the 2 hour and 40-minute runtime, it did have me a little bummed out at first, but after thinking about it and sitting on it, I'm just glad to see a film that locked me in for almost 3 hours and made me want to come back for more. Of those plot lines, I was really into the whole animals getting mistreated and caged and everything with Dr. Dillamond's character. Like, super into that plot. Thought it was super interesting. Not something I was really expecting from this film, as I really didn't know anything about the plot going in, but I had some general cues of what I thought was going to happen. But this was something that surprised me and that I was honestly super interested in. Another plotline that I was interested in was the plotline with Prince Fiero. After the scene where they saved the lion cub, I was like, okay, like there's something going on here. And I will say, and I'm not going to get into it in this video because that will come later, I do know just a little bit about some stuff from the next part, and I think that's super interesting. But I don't really feel like in this part we got to see him get fleshed out. We got little bits and pieces and a lot of setup for what his plot will be in the next film, but I really don't feel like I cared too much about his character because of this. And especially in a film that has these very long choreographed sequences and kind of shorter scenes in between, I don't really feel like he got his real shine moment. Nor did a lot of the side characters in this film, as it's very heavily driven by your two leads, and I'd say your direct next one is probably Dr. Dillamond, And I was really interested in that plot, partially for that reason. I feel very similarly about Nessa Rose and Bach. Obviously, I do kind of know where some of that's going with, you know, the Wicked Witch's sister from the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, if they're trailing along that line. But you're giving me, you know, little bits of characters in half of their story, or even kind of less since they're not the main focus. And I like these characters, and I liked where we were going with it. I just didn't really have much of an opinion on them because I just haven't gotten their full story yet. Everything with the wizard toward the end of the film was interesting. I actually didn't know Jeff Goldblum was playing the Wizard of Oz in this, but he was cool. Good to see Jeff, you know? Honestly, I thought he played a good, like, slightly younger, I mean, if you watch the original film, not that these are explicitly connected. I was like, oh yeah, that's the wizard. It's the wizard I know, grew up with, watched all the time. Like, yeah, I thought he did a good job. What really threw me off about this plot was that he was the villain behind the whole, oh, the animal citizens, we gotta come together as a country or city, whatever Oz is, you know, give them a common enemy and we'll dive in, which is also where Elphaba's like,
you have no real power.
Loved her character, really liked where it ended on, super excited to see the transition from where she is at the end of this film to where she'll be at the end of the next film, kind of leading into more of where the Wizard of Oz takes place. Because obviously, as we see at the beginning of the movie, that it is, you know, somewhat canon to this timeline. Well, I'm sure there'll be little differences and changes and whatnot, but I do want to know how we get from Elphaba, who is this strong, smart lead that really is trying to do good things, but it's turned into this bad, to someone who's obsessed with Dorothy and her little dog, and kind of that narrative of things. And I do also wonder if they will go about that. This is coming from a filmmaking perspective of things, but, you know, I do think you could do a really fun thing where you give me part 1 of Wicked, the first half of the play, you give me part 2 of Wicked, which is that, and you could readapt The Wizard of Oz with kind of this other plot and this kind of new, different Elphaba. Like, I think that would be super interesting. Give this classic timepiece, you know, the vibe that we see here. And, you know, expand on some of these characters that will continue through the second film and this theoretical new Wizard of Oz. But getting back to the wizard, I also loved what they did with the giant robot and like the room. It felt so good. It felt like being in a remodeled version of your childhood home. It was like, yeah, like I know this. I like seeing everything and his big soundboard and everything he had on there. Like, it was just really fun. Overall, I thought it was a really pleasant watch and a really well put together film with some amazing talent within it. And it made me really look forward to seeing the next part of Wicked. But once again, thank you for being here and sticking with me through Studio Cinema Saturday. While you're here, we do have more episodes of these. We also have our sister show, Television Tuesday, where we do plenty of similar content, but with TV shows. We've also got a very packed holiday season with a bunch of fun stuff coming through there. And we are still coming off of The Ties That Bind, a 38-minute featurette that we spent over a year working on, and we would love to get your feedback on it and know what you think. And we'll see you there.